Alright, thank you all for joining again for another booster boxing. This week we're featuring Murderers at Karlov Manor. This was kind of a fun set for me. Really enjoyed some of the cards, some of the new mechanics. Obviously Surveil was very popular. Just wanted to get a few things out of the way before we get unboxing though. First off, moving to a once every other week schedule. So every 2 weeks we're going to do a new booster box, not every single week. It's just a lot to go through. It's a lot to cover, and there's just not that many new sets coming out. I don't want too much repetition, so we're going to switch to this, see what happens. Maybe later we mix in collector boosters or something of that nature, but for now, this is what we got. So after this, hopefully, we'll be able to do the Avatar release. And if you notice something else, I am trying out a few new techniques for these videos, adding some overlays. Maybe I'll work on sound effects or something of that nature next. I am doing a voiceover now for the videos, as opposed to just talking through me unboxing everything. I think it gives me a better chance to look at the cards, react more appropriately, give it some time to analyze it. So, with all that being said, any feedback you have, let me know. This is a learning experience, a growing experience for me as I make my way through these boxes. If you like this better, we'll stick with it. If this isn't everyone's cup of tea, I'll go back to the old way where it's essentially a live reaction that I'm just recording, and we'll go from there. As we start to get this box opened up, you'll see it's a play booster. So that is the old style. It's 36 packs, not 30, which are going to be any of the new ones moving forward. But as we do kind of go back in time to select older sets, it'll be a 36 versus 30, and I'll try to remind everyone on those videos. It does give us a little bit of extra time and a few extra cards, so that'll be nice. We'll see if that translates to pulling anything interesting. Also, something to take note of here, the order of the cards as they open go token, land, foil, then rare. So we're going to end up seeing the rare cards here first, which is coming up right about now. And then we'll see the uncommons and the commons. Sorry, and right off the bat in the first pack, we got our first Surveil land. Those are extremely popular, extremely powerful. And yeah, I figured I'd take some time to kind of highlight them as they come up. I thought about also doing this for the Slimes Against Humanity card that was so popular in this set, but unfortunately, I just didn't pull very many of them. But if you want to keep count at home and leave a comment, let me know. Alright, as excited as I was for the first pack that I opened, the next few, there wasn't a ton of exciting cards going on. I didn't really notice anything too outstanding or worth mentioning, so I figured now would be a pretty good time to bring up one of the possibilities for filling in some video upload gaps, and that is with every single set, I'll try to highlight 5 cards subtly during the original unpacking or unboxing, and then I'll release a short form video, maybe 10 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes, going over each of, let's say, 5 cards I found interesting in each of the boxes. That way, each booster doesn't feel like I'm just wasting time opening it in front of you guys. And, I don't think this is going to be anything too crazy. It's not going to be the 5 most valuable cards or the 5 most powerful cards being used in every format. I just wanted to highlight 5 random cards that I enjoyed or planned on putting in decks of my own. just give you a video in between the booster boxings, kind of see how you enjoy it, give you a little insight into me and the kind of decks I enjoy building, cards I like to use. And here we go. Got our first just passed over a contestant for the Fave 5. And just drew this will be coming out in about a week. Massacre Girl, known killer. Yeah, Massacre Girl, known excited killer. To see that card. She's got a couple of different cards. She's very popular, a fun play around, and most of your mono black decks, black blue. So we'll see what I can come up with. As we run through a couple of these packs that nothing really jumped out at me, but I feel bad leaving you all hanging. I just wanted to bring up a few cards that I found along the way. As with every single set, there is Makeshift Bindings. You know, it's your standard 3-mana white enchantment that exiles a creature. Definitely ended up with quite a few of those. An interesting one for me was the Rubble Belt Maverick. I've been trying to build a sort of graveyard recursion deck for a little while now. And I mean, for 1 mana, he just packs a lot of value. And when he goes away, later on in the game, you can just get rid of him to put a +1/+1 counter on any creature. That's a lot of value for, you know, certain decks. Again, I don't know if I've said this before, but I play Commander in the 2 to 3 bracket range. So something like a Sidisi Brood Tyrant can really use a low power card like that either puts, you know, 2 creatures into the graveyard with its Surveil, or is able to itself end up in the yard giving me a 2/2 and then turn that 2/2 into a 3/3. Here we had a really awesome pack. Ended up being 3 rares, 1 foil, an interesting legendary creature I hadn't seen before, and then our 3rd Surveil land. I was really excited to see that. I'm a sucker for powerful lands, land fixing, and And now, while I don't want to do a full discussion on Niv Mizzet Guild Pack, it was awesome to draw him and another dragon back to back in a single pack. Did not intend for that to rhyme the way it did. But the build around for this card just seems pretty intense. You know, 2-color permanents, as many as you can. I think what's the limit on that? Like 10 possible? I mean, he's definitely a bombshell commander if you can get him in play and have him deal combat damage. But I feel like he's just going to be a magnet for removal. So he was going to be one of the original Fave 5s, but I think I've said about as much as I can without building him in an extremely high bracket. Well, I don't always want to do a high-powered card, rare card, or even a commander. So for this video at least, there you have it. Lightning Helix, a personal favorite of mine. Talk about it a little bit more later. Guess you'll have to watch the next video. I know, it's back to back, but Doppelgang was just too fun of a card to pass up as one of the Fave 5s. I haven't found a deck where I quite know how to use it yet, but I've got some interesting ideas, and we'll see where it goes. You know, it's not always about the surefire card. I really just want to mix it up, and anything that kind of catches my fancy, I'll talk about later. Maybe give a few suggestions for playing it. We'll see. And of course, just as I'm talking about cards, this one, it's pretty straightforward. Absolutely love it in token decks. But yeah, War Leader's Call, powerful card, but probably won't discuss it too much. You know, it is, again, it's a straightforward card. Interesting and powerful card, but not a ton of playstyles associated with it or crazy fun plays to be made. It's interesting to me as we go through some of the commons and uncommons for this set. There weren't a ton of standouts. There is one coming up here, the Snarling Gorehound. Absolutely stellar in a Surveil deck. You know, especially blue-black that tends to want to go unblocked and low to the ground. You know you're going to hit a couple creatures that trigger that. Also, just in general with this set, the detectives haven't been able to find a proper typal deck for them, but it does look like clues are coming back around, and you know, artifact synergies are always good. So it might be something that I revisit in the future. If I ever end up making a clue-based detective deck, I may throw that up on, you know, one of these future videos, and then you can go over to Architect and check it out, see if it's even worth playing. I have tended to steer away from typal decks in recent years. They end up building themselves a little too streamlined. But there might be an opportunity with an offbeat type to really build a fun deck. Don't know if anyone caught that, but that was back-to-back rares. So same pull in two separate packs. You know, me as someone who's pulling or buying an entire play booster and opening every single one of the packs, it's not the worst thing in the world, but I think I'd be a little disappointed if those were the two packs I saved up my money for as a kid and bought and ended up with two of the same rare cards. But sorry, in that little tangent, we also missed another one of the cards that I really enjoyed from this set, which was the Insidious Roots. I think it's a really powerful card, especially in token synergies. Can really just turn out a lot of mana generation, and that's something that's really, really powerful, especially if you can get into a situation where you're using tokens to generate mana to cast spells that generate tokens and so on and so forth. You can certainly be pretty annoying to the board and the board state with that kind of maneuver. Alright, this is just a little bit of a side rant, but saw the Public Thoroughfare come up. Was really excited when that card was spoiled, thought it might be powerful. Unfortunately, it just turns out it's a ton of hoops to jump through for something I'd rather just put in Path of Ancestry or Command Tower instead of. I was kind of disappointed, but that's one of the only negative things I'll say about this set. And I feel like that's a pretty minor negative thing to say. On the other hand, here we just pulled the Assassin's Trophy. That is one of the best single target removal spells there is. Absolutely love it, so guess Magic knew what they were doing. They set me up. And then this next card here, just a little throwback for the older people in the crowd. Bite down on crime, take a bite out of crime. Surprised they didn't try and throw in a dog detective in this set. A Scruff McGruff, if you will. I know we're starting to see a lot of double, triple ups on the commons, some on the uncommons. I'm working with a new editing software, and hopefully I'll be able to fast forward through some of this as we go on. Just to speed up the process, make sure these videos aren't too long. Not gonna lie, this one might be the all-star of the entire booster box. I know the spoiler for that. I've wanted that card for a long time. There were some other cards that I hoped to get or had hoped to get throughout this booster box. But man, pulling that one this late in the game was a real surprise, and I was super excited to get it. That's a commander that I will surely build around to really just, annoy some people at the local playgroup. Just to give a little shout out to a common here, Pick Your Poison. I think it's an awesome card. Really cheap, effective removal, yes. The opponent gets to sacrifice it, so you don't get to target anything. But that can also get you out of some jams if there's hexproof involved. So, just a fun card to keep an eye on if you ever find yourself in a group that plays a lot of hexproof or a lot of untargetable stuff. Like I said, it's not always about the commanders. It's not always about the high profile rare cards. Aftermath Analyst, he's just one of those guys. Great in any recursion deck, great in any landfall deck. You know, well, you'll see. I'll get into it in more detail when we go over that card because, man, that is one of my favorites. Yeah, I always joke that I'm not playing enough board wipes, that I kind of want to give everyone a chance to do their thing. But in reality, something around turn 3 or 4 that can just kind of reset things if somebody gets a little too far ahead. Always great to have. You know, I'll try to start slotting more into my decks, but we'll see what happens. This could be the inspiration. Yeah, saw this card. First, skipped right over it, but Officious Interrogation could be an interesting late game piece. Somebody's got a wide board. Even if your opponents only have 4 or 5 creatures each, that's a ton of tokens hitting the table. Ton of value. I mean, that card can get real dangerous real fast. I'd never seen it before. Curious to build around it. Probably not going to hit the Fave 5, but it's going to be something I look into for sure. Some very interesting red impulse draw. I've seen that card a few times. I think I'm honestly just a little too scared to use it. If it comes into play, you exile a couple of cards and somebody Vandal Blasts, or no, that's the wrong one. Somebody gets rid of an enchantment, disenchant, I guess. All those cards are just lost. And I don't know. It's just a little intimidating to risk that kind of stuff. Collecting evidence is a mechanic that I've struggled with, but pulling that rare, a card that's maybe a little better than Casualties of War, may have to look into it. Though I don't play a lot of Golgari these days. Still, could be a worthy add to any of those decks. As long as they're not recursion heavy. When your cards are gone, they're gone. Just get rid of them from the graveyard, I guess. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe that is the last of the Surveil lands. Honestly, with the prices they're going for, that might have just paid for the entire booster box itself. You know, they're great value, and they're great to have in your decks. Searchable. I don't know. I don't think I could ever bring myself to sell one of them, just because I know I'm going to end up putting them all in a deck at some point. A nice superstar for any landfall deck. I don't know, the whole solving of the case thing. I don't know exactly how that mechanic works, but anything that lets me play an extra land, gets me another landfall trigger. That's huge. Might have to bring out the old Omnath deck again, but we'll see. This was a very interesting version of Tesa. I hadn't seen it before, and then back to back, a nice little stacks piece. You know, always good to have those in the back pocket if someone's getting a little too strong, a little too fast. But yeah, that version of Tesa, not too keen on building a deck around her ability, but it seems like with the right manipulation, it can be pretty powerful. Alright, we've finally reached the last 3 packs. Now, like I said, I've started doing voiceovers, so I already know how this plays out. Unfortunately, I wasn't as lucky in previous videos. I wasn't as lucky in this video as I was in previous videos. Didn't really get that stellar card to send the video off on. There are a few interesting ones here and there. I did finally pull a crime novelist, which is a very interesting card to build around in artifact synergies, sacrifice synergies. Illicit Masquerade is one of the rares coming up here. I haven't quite wrapped my head around it or its value, but maybe one day. But with that being said, we're down to the last 2 packs now. Hopefully that wasn't too much of a spoiler for you, and I'd like to thank you all for sticking around through these last few packs and through my first experiment into voiceover work on these videos. I feel like I've learned a little bit. You know, there's definitely some things that I want to change up, do better, do different next time. You know, but we'll see. See how it works out. If you all have any suggestions, anything you want me to try differently, please feel free to add. Like I said, this video should have come out Thursday. It looks like it's going to come out Friday. Just doing some late editing. Alright, we've got our last pack here. But yeah, I'll take these final moments to just kind of, again, say thank you to everyone. Please come back for the next video. Like I said, it's probably going to be Avatar. Probably going to be a little late. I don't think I get my release until the 28th. Unfortunately, I'm not one of those popular YouTubers yet that gets it ahead of time. So hopefully, in the future sets, when this channel explodes, I'll be able to get out any newer sets on time instead of a week late. But that's alright. Alright, there goes our last pack. I'd like to thank you all for joining me. Thank you all for sticking around to the end of this video. And I hope to see you for the next one. Also, check out the shorts. I've got a bunch of random packs that I've started to acquire and open. Have a good one.